On this day, Rosh Hashanah, we say to each other, Shana Tova Umtuka, which means may you have a good and sweet new year. And when we look back on this past year, surely there were sweet and good moments. We welcomed new life into our community. We celebrated with near record number of bar bat mitzvah students and their families. We shared sweet moments under the chuppah. We saw so many members of our community move from sickness to health. We experienced countless good and sweet moments in between, accomplishments completed, the challenges overcome, and the big and small victories and celebrations and love. And yet, 1 year ago, just days after we wished each other a Shana Tova Umetuka, a good and sweet year, it became and turned into October 7th, the Black Sabbath, as it's called in Israel, the worst attack on the Jewish people since the Holocaust. 2 days ago, it was the terrorist attack in the suburbs of Tel Aviv, followed by nearly 200 rockets and ballistic missiles falling indiscriminately on Israel. I could go on. Unfortunately, this moment, believe it or not, reminds me the one about the usher for the High Holy Days who greets an elderly woman who was visiting. He gave her a prayer book. He walked her into the sanctuary, asked her politely, "Where would you like to sit?" She answered, "The front row, please." He said, "You sure you want to do that? The rabbi's a little boring." The woman said, "Do you know who I am?" "No," he said. "I'm the rabbi's mother," she replied. "Well, do you know who I am?" he asked. "No." "Good," as he ran away. So I'll be honest with you, I tried to run away from this. I tried to run away from the responsibility of giving this very message that needs to be said today. But I couldn't. I can't. The truth is that none of us can hide. We have to address the uneasy feeling so many of us are feeling. And which one specifically? Thank you for asking. According to the ADL, in this last year alone, America is home to more anti-Semitic incidences than any other time in recent history. Our state and region has faced a series of catastrophic wildfires, no end in sight. It's October, it's 110 outside. Our society grows even coarser with vile and political rhetoric, increased examples of racial inequality, treating immigrants worse than criminals, gender discrimination, worsening climate change. On a personal level, many of us have suffered painful diagnoses, painful changes in relationships, and the loss of loved ones. And the list goes on. And of course, that was just the domestic issues. I didn't even get into international ones. While every year has painful moments, this year hurt. In conversations with so many of you, I have heard you express your anxieties, your fears, your anger, and I'm right there with you, with your shock, with your sadness, with your despair, and yes, sometimes your desire to withdraw. I understand it. I share it. I'm an optimist by nature, and even I must work to cultivate hope. But Jewish tradition does not linger on the why something bad happens, but rather when bad things happen, how we should respond. when we are angry, when we grieve, when we can turn inwards to ourselves and turn to our family and to our neighbors, to our community. And when we hurt, we can turn to God. That's why I want to give us just a few suggestions and ideas of how to practice that very resiliency, cultivate that hope, and lean into the resources of our tradition to guide us through this difficult time. Because after all, that is my job, right? So number one of my teachers shared the following with me. He said, I learned my theology from rabbis and professors, but I learned more from my children. When my daughter was small, we had a bedtime routine. Each night I tucked her in, sang prayers, shared a hug, attempted to sneak out of the room. In a moment, she began to scream, Dad, there's an alligator under my bed. There's a monster in the closet. There's a giant spider on the ceiling. I walked back into a room. I looked under the bed. No alligator. I looked at the closet. No monsters. I looked at the ceiling. No spiders. Now go to sleep. Tomorrow is coming. Everything is safe. Good night. We did this dance for an entire year until one night I stopped and I asked myself, who is right? Whose description of the world is factually correct? The child afraid of alligators under the bed, or the father who reassures her that tomorrow is surely coming? The fact is, the child is correct. She doesn't know the names of the alligators under the bed, but we do. We grown-ups know all about the violence and the evil that surrounds us. Yet we still teach our children to trust. All loving parents do this. And even the most hard-boiled atheist whispers to the child, tomorrow is coming. You're safe tonight. Now go to sleep. Kids make us the believers. This is the deep spirituality of parenting. We all need this. A sense of trust right now that we are safe tonight and that we can go to sleep. It's not all up to us. Our worries will not help. What we need to do is be balanced and not react in a way that will prevent us from moving forward. That is trust. To sleep well through the night despite the alligators under the bed. And number two, there's a great scene in Steven Spielberg's film Lincoln, which I believe teaches us a wonderful message. The scene is where the 16th president is reflecting on a lesson he learned while he worked as a surveyor. A compass, he says, will point you true north from where you're standing, but it has no advice about the swamps and deserts that you'll have to encounter along the way. If in pursuit of your destination you plunge ahead, heedless of obstacles, and achieving nothing more than to sink in a swamp, then what's the use of knowing which direction is north? Judaism gives us true north, but it also gives us values and teachings that give us purpose. We're all created in God's image. We were redeemed from Egypt and will therefore not oppress the stranger in our midst. We see the world is broken and in need of our partnership in repairing it. The moral compass, however, does not show us how we get there. The swamps and the deserts of policies and laws and of the day-to-day decisions with family and friends in the private sphere have pitfalls. They're messy, and they require negotiation and compromise. The important thing is to keep our moral compass straight north and to do the hard work of navigating those terrains, listening to opposing voices, and finding paths towards to address the issues of the day with fierceness but flexibility. And number 3, the High Holy Days are an entire season dedicated to reflection, to looking inwards, to making the repairs necessary to find healing. Yet there's a question we should all ask ourselves. How has this year changed us? When disaster strikes, it is even more important to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves and not just those around us. I'd like to suggest a tool. Write a letter to your future self. Take this opportunity to return to yourself with authenticity and meaning, and take the time to be introspective and reflective by stepping away from the computer or the cell phone and putting pen to paper. How will you imagine the year ahead? What will be different? What will remain the same? What kind of support will you need to thrive in the next year? Friends, just imagining your future can provide healing in the present. Number 4, after a difficult year like this, when something disturbing or frightening happens, some of us ask, why does God let this happen? I'm guessing you've asked yourself exactly this question at some point in the year. I know I have. It's a natural struggle within ourselves. Know that Jewish theology really does not have an answer for why God lets bad things happen to people. Instead, we're asked to engage, to lean into that theological struggle. After all, Am Yisrael, the people of Yisrael, literally means the people who struggle with God. To be an Israelite is to be part of a people or a tradition that struggles and finds meaning and purpose from that struggle. Indeed, there were many times that I struggled this year. I struggled to figure out what is God's role and what is my role. But maybe controlling behavior is not why God resides among us and within us. Maybe God's job is not to stop evil, but to teach us goodness. Not to destroy bad behavior, but to inspire us to build kindness. Not to alter inhumanity, but to command us to embrace and nurture tolerance and engage in compassion. Some justices or injustices in the world are brought about by truly evil people, and we may never understand why. Which brings me to my last suggestion. We Jews have been known for our humor, laughter through the tears, we call it. I've given that sermon a few times. But we're also known for our hope. As long as there is a thread of possibility, there is reason to hope. Judaism teaches us it is holding on to the plausibility of the possible, not just the necessity of the probable, that gives us hope. It is possible that scientists or politicians or innovators or activists will make a sufficient dent in the climate crisis. It is possible that Putin will be defeated, if not from Ukraine or within Russia. It is possible that young activists in Iran will defy their leaders' awful crackdowns. It is possible that courageous leaders across the globe will thwart the tide of anti-Semitism. There are so many possibilities, and we can't lose focus on that hope even while we act in the here and the now. Look, I don't know how to single-handedly solve the global political problems. I don't know how to single-handedly solve polarizing political debates. I don't know how to solve single-handedly problems of pain and suffering felt all over the world, even by loved ones right here in this room. But I do know a few things about hope. I know that I have hope. I know that hope is possible to solve these problems and more. I have hope for you, and your power and your abilities. I pray that you have hope for me and my power and my abilities. I believe in the power of the hope of the Jewish people. I believe in the wisdom and the insight of Jewish teachings and texts about hope. I believe in a God-given talents we possess to transform our world from darkness to light. I believe that God cares about you and God cares about me. And I believe that the efforts of our hands, our prayers, our learning, our singing, our trying, our believing, and our doing, and hopefully our hoping will really do matter each and every day. Because for the truth of the matter is, it is not that we live on hope alone, but that life is not worth living without it. We like to say, may this year and its troubles be behind us. May the new year be sweet. We do say this, and we should say this. But we should acknowledge that 5785 will include difficult moments. It's part of life. We just pray, God, it's not like 5784. We need God, and we need our inner resources as we move into this new year. And what we will need is one another to face whatever darkness befalls us in the new year. Then each of us, all of us, will experience more light and more life. May this be a good year. May this be a sweet year. May this be a year of light and joy and life. And may this be a year of more healing than hurt. As we say, Keni Ratzon, may this be God's will. Amen.